is a Sunday morning, and I thank you so much. February 12th. Great to have you with me. My name is Rennie Bishop. You are Inside Brunch. Before I introduce my next guest, I am doing what I said I would do to all my Trinbagonian guests today, so only one exception is going to be the Congresswoman from the United States. I will ask my guest before I introduce him, which band are you backing for semifinals today, sir?
Desperados.
Good. Okay, man is at home, and I'll tell you who he is. I'll tell you who he is now. Errol Pilgrim, how are you, my friend? That's a good man. That's a good man right there. He's going to be Rados all the way. Errol Pilgrim is a veteran journalist. He writes some articles there as he has been doing all of his life that hits to the center of an issue. Every so often he says something happens to jolt you into the realization that you are existing in a country that is not only quintessentially third world, but one that seems determined to be cast as being highly materialistic and morally decrepit. In other words, you see a country that is losing its soul. That is his article in this week's Mirror newspaper. Errol Pilgrim, thank you so much, veteran journalist, for joining me.
Well, it's my pleasure, Rennie. Anytime you call, I answer.
And I truly appreciate it, because every time when I get on to you is about something that is striking, materialistic, morally decrepit, you say, a demeaning reality and social decay. You said it's gone from bad manners, greed, and selfishness to deviance, savagely preying on women and children. Before I get to the main purpose of your column, which is the Trinidad Tobago workshop, theater workshop, is this description I just alluded to exaggerated, or is this our new reality? Is it, in fact, as dire as you state?
I think it is dire, and I think it goes to the root of the problem, the major problem we are having in this country, which is crime. Because, you see, Rennie, we have lost, or perhaps we are going to lose, all the values that we cherished that make a country a nation, that make a people a society. We have lost good manners. We have lost everything and it is not only in the children that reflect this, but adults. They do not care about anything except what is material, money, position, power. And, it is so refreshing when you have the theater, when you have the arts, when you have the calypso. I remember I went to the opening of the Calypso Theater at Globe Cinema. Mm-hmm. And Brother Resistance made the point that being here tonight at Globe Cinema is symptomatic of the problems that Calypso is having, that they do not have a place to go. And that is what is happening with the theater workshop. They do not have a place to go. And it is sad. When you look at all we try to compare ourselves with the United States, with Europe, and so on, right? People go out on an evening to the theater. People go out an evening to enjoy the arts. People tell you good morning, good evening. We have lost it. This is the reason why I'm so passionate.
The soullessness of Trinidad and Tobago, you say, is exemplified by the unfortunate situation with the Trinidad Theater Workshop, the nakedness of our cultural neglect, and the classist, even racist disregard for the nation's building blocks. There are two areas you hit inside of there. You speak of people, which you alluded to earlier, who are so occupied with the material that they see nothing else, but you also speak of a neglect that seems to be embedded in some classist, racist sort of foundation. Speaks directly to what you're saying, please.
Yeah, I can draw the example of the Brian Lara Stadium at Taruba. I wrote an article earlier, some months ago, where I said that if it were a situation in India where a stadium or anything else is being built in honor of Tendulkar, the government will not dare tear down that stadium or not complete it. Because, you see, Brian Lara is not only representative of the skills and the achievement of cricket. He represents something that goes to the heart of excellence, that people can relate to, that young people can aspire to, that young people can try to emulate. And when you treat Brian Lara, because that is what it is, when you treat Brian Lara in that way, you are saying, to hell with you. You know, who are you, black man? Why do you want this excellence? You know, it is the same thing that is happening with Walcott and his center, his theater.
Give our listeners a history. While you say that, I must make the point that we always have to guard against folks who seek to put a wedge, and that's one of the dangers of politicians who seek to walk the race game. It is still Trinidad and Tobago, the all-encompassing Trinidad and Tobago, and we must not fall victims to those who prey on insensitivities and or ignorance and or xenophobia. Let us deal with the Trinidad Theatre Workshop, because a lot of folks will hear about it. They will hear the name Walcott thrown around, the name Barrel thrown around, but they don't understand the history. Will you give a synopsis of the Trinidad Theatre Workshop so our listeners understand the importance of this icon that's in trouble that we're talking about this morning?
Well, okay. The Trinidad Theatre Workshop was started by Derek Walcott, who is one of the icons of both Trinidad and Tobago and St. Lucia. He was born in St. Lucia. He made his mark in Trinidad and Tobago. He's one of the two Nobel laureates. He won a Nobel Prize for Literature. And the fact is that a man like that should be held in any country that is worth its salt.
In reverence.
Would be held in high esteem. Now, I want to credit my good friend and colleague Lennox Grant for reminding me that it is Patrick Manning and his government that decided to remove Derek Walcott from their 20-year stay at the old fire service building on Abercrombie Street to give way to an extension of the Nallis Library service, right? And after that, I mean, the theater workshop was like a mendicant, just moving from one place to the other. Until today, they are standing in they're facing another eviction in Belmont, Junningham Avenue. You know, the guy says, an American, by the way, who owns the building, he says, listen, pay us $275,000 US or move out, you know. And Albert Laveau, who is one of the more, he also is an icon in the theater. He says, listen, if somebody buys a building and they want to keep us there, we will welcome that. We do not have the money. But otherwise, that will be the end of the Trinidad Theatre Workshop.
It means a whole lot to Trinidad and Tobago, and your angst is unmistakable when reviewing the performance of the National Trust. The National Trust, they're the heritage protectors. You call them toothless.
Exactly, because they have been doing nothing. I mentioned the case of the church on
Greyfriars, yes.
Greyfriars Church on Frederick Street. I mean, while they were sitting contemplating what to do, the fellow brought a bulldozer and he raised the building. And I mean, this is part of our history. You know, we do not seem to care anything about history. We do not seem to care anything about anything that we cannot feel and touch, which is God.
Or spend.
That we do not care about God, man, because we can't feel him and we can't touch him. You know, and then this is what is happening with this country. That unless we go back to the values we have had, the values that have brought us here, we are lost. the material, motor cars, the guns, the whatever that you supply the policemen with, if they do not have values, we are lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to go into some other areas coming out of your article, but I just want to make a conclusion on the Trinidad Theatre Workshop here. What is being done? What can be done, you believe, by the general citizenry? Our listeners who are listening this morning and understand the importance of the Walcott, the McBurney, understand the contribution of the Trinidad Theatre Workshop, understanding how important art is to the psyche of a nation, the heritage of a nation. What can they do, and what is being done to the best of your knowledge up till this time?
Well, I will tell you something, that I was heartened when Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley went all the way to London to buy some paintings of Michel Jean Casabon.
Mm-hmm.
Because that gesture alone told me that his heart is in the right place. And I think in order to make some reparations for the mistake that his predecessor, Patrick Manning, did in terms of the theatre workshop, he should ensure that the government, that the Ministry of Culture, finds a permanent location to establish the Trinidad Theatre Workshop in the minds and hearts of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the responsibility now of Dr. Keith Rowley. Let him carry the Casabon gesture a little further.
You know, of course, when he went to get the paintings of Mr. Casabon, he was nailed to the cross almost because he chose to take that action.
And definitely that is what is wrong with the country. You had the UNC telling him that this is a waste of money. Again, materialistic. I mean, you have Michel Jean Casabon was the first internationally recognized painter and artist that Trinidad and Tobago produced. And you are telling the people of Trinidad and Tobago that it is a waste of time to rescue these paintings from oblivion. I mean, oh goodness, Rennie. What do we need in this country for adults to understand that the things that you cannot see, the things like morals, the things like good manners, the things like values are what is important?
My guest this morning is a veteran journalist, Errol Pilgrim. We are talking about the Trinidad Theatre Workshop and then the wider implications of the place they find themselves in. I wonder when you opine that it is as though some lesser God has ordained that anything that is not depraved by the evils of corruption shall not prosper in this country, and more so if it is of the African segment of the population. I want to ask you, is that making a race situation where there is not race but rather a disregard for anything that cannot be touched, as you said?
Well, Rennie, we have the example of what is happening along the East-West corridor. I mean, you can point on pick out on the fingers of one hand the efforts that have been made to rescue the black youth from degradation and from crime and so on. You have the Maloney situation where they've developed things to attract the young people away from crime. Mm-hmm. But the East-West corridor, which is populated largely by black people, is in a mess. When you go to the theater, you have the makings of theater in Trinidad and Tobago, a lot of comedy and so on. Mm-hmm. Raghu Singh and these fellas, they're trying. But when you see the people who go there and the people who can afford to go there, it is not the black youth. It is not the people who can benefit possibly more from what is being done are the people who cannot afford to go there. You know, and I am saying that you need an urgent emergency rescue mission for the black youth and generally for the black people in this country. People are suffering. We take things for granted. We think in our little ivory towers that we are all comfortable. You know, we are barred around. We have the cameras and so on. And we say, listen, we are comfortable, to hell with the rest. And this is not how a country works. You know, we are developing a number of Donald Trumps in this country. You know, who think for themselves that they are the ones that are important. Make America great again, and to hell with the rest of the world, right? Make our situations great, and to hell with whatever happens. Dr. Rowley made an almost, a passionate plea to young women in this country to be selective about the people they associate with. And he is taken to task. People are calling for his head.
I find that amazing.
What is happening in this country, man? You know, where have we gone? Oh, I mean, I know where we've gone. But how far again are we going to go? You know, I mean, Rennie, sometimes it pains me to see where we were and where we are at.
Veteran journalist Errol Pilgrim is with me. I understand that particular pain because you came through an era when the African population in Trinidad and Tobago were told to stay in the back. They finally moved forward. Having moved forward, you get the feeling now that it is no longer a case of putting up a barrier, but there's a systemic move to keep people in an area where they cannot progress at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I very immodestly point out that I had a lot to do with the black people coming to the front. This is why I feel so passionately about what is happening now, because when I wrote that story in the Express about the country club scandal, racism at the country club, the Express followed it up with asking Eric Williams to do a commission of inquiry into the banks and insurance houses, and that was in 1968, before the Black Power Revolution of 1970. And it was found, the commissioner felt that one of his major recommendations is that the ethnic composition of the banks and insurance houses should reflect as closely as possible the ethnic composition of the country. And that is when they started bringing the black forward, realizing then that all these black people that they were keeping in the back were more skilled than the colored people that they had in front, you know. And that is a situation that they face up front, and they did something about. And I am saying that we, regardless of the outcry that the opposition forces would make, we need to do something to uplift the values of black people in this country, especially the youth, who are killing each other for nothing.
The voice you're hearing is that of veteran journalist Errol Pilgrim. Your column appears in the TNT Mirror this week, and folks would be well served to go there, deal with that. I do want to go back just for a moment, Errol, on that point. And you know, it annoyed me so much that I sought after the morning show. I said, look, I'm just going to stay away from this. But it makes absolutely no sense to me. I cannot even begin to fathom how papers, how media can spend time understanding that a 30-second soundbite was taken out of a bigger presentation, and it was in response to a specific situation that begged asking folks to look within yourself and be part of the solution, how they could take that out and make that an issue. It was a non-issue. It was the same thing your mother, your father, your grandfather would say to the female member in your family, and it is a real question. You are not the solution. I am not saying I'm not responsible for your well-being. I am saying the decision of inside is yours. It is not saying that the person you get who is going to be a saint and then turn into a devil and you have no control. It's merely saying just check it out before you purchase it. Broken down in the Trinidad parlance, don't buy cat and bag. Take time and investigate.
Definitely. And it gives you an idea of the uphill battle that Keith Rowley faces. And people must not forget the context in which he came into power.
Hello.
The kind of denigration that he has suffered. You know?
Yes,
At one time they were saying that he's too black to be a prime minister. The people who said that are still in Trinidad and Tobago trying to pull him down. And regardless of what he says and regardless of what he does, they will continue trying to pull him down. You know, because he represents something that they do not look up to. It is like Barack Obama in America.
Hello.
That the whites who out of their minds, so to speak, went and voted for him, decided to put a fascist white male in power, that they could not even decide that a white woman who has values and looks presidential should be given a chance.
You know,
we are suffering from the same thing here in Trinidad and Tobago. We feel that Rowley should be pulled down at every opportunity. I'm using the we in a less collective sense. But there are people in high places who feel that he should not be given the opportunity to make Trinidad a better place to live.
It is 2 minutes away from the top of the hour. Veteran journalist Errol Pilgrim is with me. I've got Ronnie McIntosh standing by. He will join us, and then I'll be going to the United States for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke to speak on the question of the Trump policy that has seen raids across the United States in the last week. I'm continuing with Errol just to close down this one area here, because you have been a journalist all your life almost. What I find amazing is that some of the editors and some of the folks who allow this to be spread across the board, as it were, are folks who can easily say, should have the responsibility to say, this was taken out of a wider response, this was taken out of context, this is the issue. It is fine for any particular group to take it and use it as their fodder. That's fine. But as far as you're coming to our dissemination point of information, this is out of context and as such should not go further. Are you surprised that editors and so on in newsrooms and in print newspaper allow this thing to have a life of its own, or does it speak to some form of complicity in this?
Well, Rennie, unfortunately, we have got to the stage where these newspaper editors and managers and owners also have an agenda, right? And they satisfy that agenda at the expense of the so-called nascent society that we are trying to build here. You know, I mean, there are so many areas that can be corrected in the media. The emphasis on crime and blood and gore is one of those areas.
Yes.
The emphasis in trying to tear down everything that the government does and that Rowley does is another area. I am not saying that you have to be P&M, but you have to recognize what happened before Dr. Rowley came into this office, where the country was and where it was going, and what is being tried now to pull it back in shape, right? And you know, the comparison is there. When Barack Obama came into office in the United States, the U.S. was going to hell in a basket. I mean, the economy was down, the jobs were down, the housing thing took over, and I mean, the millionaires on Wall Street were smiling and so on. And Obama said, we have to stop that. And what has happened now? They're trying to tear down every legacy that he has left.
Wow. I tell you, my brother.
And Rowley has to watch himself. Because you may find that they may put a Trump to replace a Rowley in this country.
Errol Pilgrim. Veteran journalist, my brother, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time this morning. We went into the primary area of your article, which is saving the Trinidad Theatre Workshop. You said no confidence whatsoever in the National Trust. You're saying it is now the responsibility of the government to save this, even to save this one way or the other and give a permanent home to the Trinidad Theatre Workshop. And we went further afield, asking the nation to look within ourselves and see if, in fact, we are as fractured as it would seem, or whether there is a greater us deep inside for the nation, is what we should look at. My brother, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be with me this morning.
And I want to say that the one redeeming factor would be Desperados winning the Panorama.
I want to say that I concur with you 1,000%. Errol, have a great day, my brother.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.